Hi Lucas,
Hello, Robin.
how are you?
I am very, very good. Back in Amsterdam, happily.
That's very good to hear. So where I want to start with is, I thought let's start just with the start of the album. So
Yes.
let's start with Not a Damn Thing Changed. Um, how do you look back at where you grew up now?
Oh, looking back at my neighborhood of Christiania, I don't.
Mm.
I mean, it's where I grew up. It's where my life began. Where most of my friends still live. Where I still hang out when I'm at home in Copenhagen. I look back at it fondly, and I'm very, very. I feel very lucky that I got to grow up there and not somewhere boring.
Mm. And can you kind of paint the picture a little bit for me? What was it like? Was it very creative? Was there always music around?
So Christiania is a abandoned army base that was squatted in 1971 by homeless people, hippies, junkies, criminals, and over the course of the last 45 years, soon 50 years, it has transformed. They pushed out the hard drug trade, they pushed out the gangs, and it's basically a very well-run neighborhood now. We have kindergarten, creche, we have after-school projects for the kids, a sports club, we have concert halls, restaurants, cafes, shopping possibilities. And it's basically a neighborhood where you don't own the house you live in, you borrow it from the neighborhood. And we don't really have a mayor, we have the common meeting where all 600 residents can join the meeting if you want to.
So it's very egalitarian.
It's very egalitarian. That's a nice way of putting it, because it's not equality, it's egalitarian.
Right. Having grown up there, how did music find its way to you?
I have no idea how it was growing up there as opposed to anywhere else, because I only grew up one place. But there are a lot of concert halls, and like ranging from the jazz club that has like 120, 150 people fit there. The first place we played a concert. We have the what's it called, the Light of the City, which is like a cinema where you can also play concerts that are seated. We have the Grey Hall that fits more than 1,000.
Okay.
We have Loppen that fits 400. We have an outdoor amphitheater kind of stage that it's 5,000 people, outdoor venue. So there is a lot of music, and there always was a lot of music. So yes, of course, being influenced by different types of cultures.
Right. And one thing I liked, well, there's a line in one of the... I'm not sure if this was a line. Oh yeah, it was a line. Let's see what song it was. You're not the only one.
Yes.
You say no one seems to write them now that John and Bob are dead. And so that refers, I suppose, to John Lennon and Bob Marley.
Yes.
So were those the type of people that you grew up on? Or was that what kind of sparked your interest in that time?
I listened to what I would describe as an eclectic musical mix. So I listened to everything from rock and pop, soul, funk, R&B, rap music, techno, folk music, classical music.
Okay.
So I just listened to everything. What mainly strikes me about John Lennon's and specifically Bob Marley's songwriting is the inclusiveness, the attempt to make a change for the better.
Well, was there a lot of, because I can imagine growing up as you describe it where you did, was there a lot of activism
Yes.
around?
There was and still is a lot of activism around Christiania. I mean, a lot of activism around the legalization of weed, a lot of activism about women's rights, workers' rights, equal rights, being more egalitarian, a more egalitarian society. We'll just wait for the...
Yeah.
So the dream of a more egalitarian society is something that is deeply rooted in me, and something that I hope will attain in the future. Coming from Scandinavia, it is quite egalitarian to begin with.
Sure.
I just think we can become better, because Scandinavia is turning to this neoliberal way, a little bit right-wing. Let's be racist, xenophobic, and let's keep all our money to ourselves. Now, all these young people voting for the neoliberal right-wing parties are forgetting that they grew up under a socialist regime where sharing is caring, where the broadest shoulders and the strongest men and women carry it the weakest.
Why do you without kind of making this into a political interview, but why do you think that is? Why do you think there's more of a rise of, let's say, individualism, or more of a...
Well, we just talked about the whole Instagram thing. Everything is about me, me, me. It's me first. But the thing is that illness starts with I, and wellness starts with we. And all of these young people that are voting right-wing and neoliberal, they keep forgetting they grew up in abundance. They don't remember the struggle. I grew up in the struggle. I grew up in a house without a bathroom. I grew up wearing secondhand clothes and eating leftovers. I grew up sending letters to my friends in jail because I had friends that ended up on the wrong side of the law. And I mean, sometimes I fantasize about this whole Native American saying that before the white man, we had no prisons, no beggars, no homeless, no drug addictions, no privately owned property, no money, and they called us uncivilized. And I think that's kind of funny to look at,
Right.
because the more original people you find, the less unhappiness they have. And then the more so-called civilized societies we look at, the more unhappiness we have. Like, we have so many people on antidepressants. We have so much personal debt. I mean, why?
Yeah, I mean, those are problems way bigger than I can ever figure out. But
Oh, completely. No, but I don't have the answer either.
no, but I do get what you're saying. There's when you start to think about it, you ask those type of questions. Why is this necessary? Why do we need? And is that where then you're not the only one? A song like that arises.
You're not the only one. Comes from the way that the world is voting at the moment. I mean, I guess you grow up as a kid and you think we can change the world, and then you're looking at how people are voting and you realize how the fuck are we ending up here? How can we let fear and hate guide us? You know, nationalism, the only thing it teaches you is how to hate people you've never met.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why. We've seen what nationalism can do right here in Europe, and we're still voting right wing now again 100 years later, right? That's pretty fucking scary.
Right.
Like, it's not even 100 years ago since we had a very, very massive wave of nationalism.
Right. And well, what I find interesting, because you mentioned earlier before the camera was on, that a couple of years ago you became a father.
Yes.
Does it become more of an issue once you are a father, kind of how the world looks?
I was very concerned with the world as a teenager as well. I mean, it's just about, if you read enough books and if you read enough history and you look at enough news, and you just become, it's like, wow, can there really be so much bullshit in one world? Can there really be so many people working for personal gains? I mean, I would hope that most people in the world want to live in humanity as a common group. But then you can see social studies that people care more about a stray dog than they care about a homeless person. Right. Because in some way we've decided in the Western world that if you are poor, it's your own fault. If you're homeless, it's your own fault. If you're a drug addict, it's your own fault. And then we talk about bad parenting. Then there's a good story about the alcoholic father who had 2 sons. One son grew up to become an alcoholic, and he was asked why, and he said, "I watched my father." The other son grows up to never drink a drop, and they ask him, "Why do you not drink a drop?" And he said, "I watched my father." 2 kids, same parents, 2 completely different ways of looking at life. These philosophical debates are always interesting. The question is just, do they ever transcend the interview? Do people understand that we're having a conversation and I'm not just being some holy guy pretending to have the answers? Because I don't pretend to have these answers. But all I'm saying with a song like You're Not the Only One is that right now, if people don't agree politically, they start shouting at each other.
Right.
You're crazy. You're crazy. Ask some questions. Try to get to know these people. Understand that the person voting really, really right-wing is living in a tiny village somewhere in Europe where the factory closed. There used to be a college nearby, but that closed. Everything was centralized. The jobs are leaving. The education is leaving.
Right.
People are leaving.